The first machine is a laser engraver, and the economics of laser engraving have shifted substantially since the Chinese desktop laser market expanded between 2020 and 2024. A diode laser engraver capable of cutting and engraving wood, leather, acrylic, and anodized metal can now be purchased from between $300 and $800 for a basic open frame unit, or between $2,000 and $6,000 for an enclosed CO2 laser with a larger working area and higher power output. The Xtool P2, the OhmTex 60-watt, and the Glowforge Pro represent three different price points in the CO2 laser segment, ranging from approximately $4,000 to $7,000 at retail. The diode lasers at the lower end of the market, machines like the Xtool D1 Pro and the Creality Falcon series, can engrave flat materials and cut thin wood and acrylic, but lack the power to cut thicker materials or engrave on glass and ceramics with significant limitation. The CO2 lasers in the $4,000 to $7,000 range cut half-inch plywood cleanly, engrave glass and ceramic with acceptable results, and process leather and fabric at speeds that make production work viable. The revenue model for a laser engraving business is built on personalization, and personalization is a market where the perceived value of the product far exceeds the material cost. A cutting board purchased wholesale for $8 to $12, engraved with a family name and a decorative design in 4 minutes of machine time, sells on Etsy and at local craft markets for $35 to $65. A set of 4 engraved coasters made from $3 cork or bamboo blanks sells for $18 to $28. A personalized wooden sign made from a $2 plank blank sells for $25 to $45. The material cost per item in most laser engraving categories runs between $2 and $15, and the retail price for personalized goods runs between 3 and 10 times that material cost. The margin per unit is high. The challenge is volume, because each order requires custom file setup, engraving time, finishing, packaging, and shipping, and the cumulative time investment per order is what determines whether the margin translates into meaningful hourly income for the operator. A laser engraving operator who has streamlined their workflow, developed a catalog of proven product designs, and established a steady order flow through Etsy, local craft fairs, or direct B2B sales to wedding planners and corporate gift buyers can realistically generate between $2,000 and $5,000 in net income from a single machine. An operator who purchases the machine without a defined product strategy, lists 3 generic items on Etsy and waits for orders to arrive, will generate significantly less and may not recover the cost of the machine within the first year. The second machine is a DTF printer, which stands for direct to film, and it has rapidly displaced the older heat transfer vinyl and screen printing methods for custom apparel production at the small business scale. A DTF printer prints a full-color design onto a special PET film using modified inkjet technology, applies a hot melt adhesive powder to the wet ink, cures the adhesive, and produces a transfer that can be heat-pressed onto virtually any fabric, including cotton, polyester, nylon, and blends. The quality of a DTF transfer is comparable to screen printing for most applications, with the critical advantage that DTF requires no minimum order quantity, no screen setup, and no color separation process. A single custom shirt can be produced profitably, which makes DTF the technology of choice for small-run custom apparel, event merchandise, and made-to-order operations. Entry-level DTF printers based on converted Epson printhead technology cost between $1,500 and $3,000 for a desktop unit with a 13-inch print width. Mid-range production units from brands like Prestige, Coldesi, and DTF Station cost between $5,000 and $15,000 and offer wider print widths, faster output, and automated powder shaking and curing. The consumables cost per transfer, including film, ink, and powder, runs between 75 cents and $2 depending on the size and color density of the design. A blank Gildan or Bella Plus canvas t-shirt purchased in bulk costs between $2.50 and $4.50 depending on the style and quantity. The total material cost per finished custom shirt, including the blank, the transfer, and the heat press application, ranges from $3.50 to $7. Custom printed shirts sell at retail for $18 to $35 for individual orders and at wholesale for $8 to $15 per unit for bulk orders of 25 or more. The margin structure of DTF printing looks extraordinarily favorable on paper, and for operators who achieve consistent volume, it genuinely is favorable. The operational challenges that reduce that margin in practice include print head maintenance, which on an Epson-based DTF printer requires regular cleaning cycles and periodic head replacement at a cost of $200 to $600 per head. Ink costs are ongoing and can represent a significant monthly expense at production volume, with a full set of DTF ink cartridges or bottles costing between $100 and $300 and lasting for approximately 500 to 1,500 transfers depending on coverage. The heat press itself, which is required to apply the transfer to the garment, costs between $300 and $1,200 for a quality unit and is an additional capital cost on top of the printer. The third machine is a commercial embroidery machine, and it occupies a market segment that is more established, more predictable, and less dependent on online marketplace dynamics than either laser engraving or DTF printing. Single-head commercial embroidery machines from Brother, Tajima, and Ricoma cost between $5,000 and $15,000 depending on the number of needles, which determines the number of thread colors the machine can use without manual thread changes. A 10-needle or 15-needle machine, which is the standard for commercial production, costs between $7,000 and $12,000 for a new unit. Used commercial embroidery machines are available at significant discounts, with well-maintained units from the major brands selling for 40 to 60% of their original retail price. The embroidery business model is built on repeat orders from commercial and institutional clients, rather than individual consumer sales. Custom embroidered polo shirts for businesses, embroidered patches for organizations, monogrammed items for gift shops, and embroidered caps for sports teams and promotional use represent the core revenue streams. The per-unit embroidery charge ranges from $4 to $12 depending on the stitch count, design complexity, and garment type, with most standard logo embroidery falling in the $5 to $8 range per piece. On a cap, which is one of the highest margin embroidery products, the blank costs between $3 and $6. The embroidery adds $5 to $8 in charges to the customer, and the thread and stabilizer cost per unit is approximately 25 to 50 cents. The margin per cap is between $4 and $7.50, and the single-head machine running at production speed can complete a standard cap design in 6 to 10 minutes, which means the machine can produce 6 to 10 caps per hour at a gross margin of $24 to $75 per hour of machine time. The fourth machine is a CNC router, and it serves a fundamentally different market than the personalization machines because its primary output is functional parts and architectural products rather than decorative or personalized items. Desktop CNC routers suitable for sign making, small furniture components, and custom woodworking cost between $1,500 and $5,000 for machines like the Shapeoko, X-Carve, and Onefinity series. Larger format CNC routers with 4x8 foot cutting beds, which are the standard for sign shops and cabinet makers, cost between $8,000 and $25,000 for the machine alone, plus the cost of dust collection, tooling, and software. The CNC router removes material from a workpiece using a spinning cutting bit that follows a computer-generated toolpath, producing parts with dimensional precision that hand cutting cannot match at comparable speed. The revenue model for a CNC router business depends heavily on the market served. Custom sign making, which includes business signs, address plaques, directional signs, and decorative signs for residential and commercial clients, generates per unit revenue of $50 to $500 depending on size, material, and complexity. Custom cabinet components and furniture parts generate higher per unit revenue, but require larger machines, more material investment, and a higher level of woodworking finishing skill. The CNC router business has a higher skill floor than laser engraving or DTF printing because the operator must understand feeds and speeds for different materials, tool path optimization, work holding, and finishing processes that do not apply to the other machines on this list. The operator who purchases a CNC router without prior woodworking or machining experience faces a learning curve that can take 3 to 6 months of active use before the quality of output is consistently suitable for sale. The fifth machine is a freeze dryer, and it represents a fundamentally different business category because its output is food rather than manufactured goods. Home and small commercial freeze dryers from Harvestrite, which is effectively the only manufacturer in the consumer and prosumer freeze dryer market, cost between $2,500 and $5,000 depending on the unit size. Freeze drying, technically called lyophilization, removes moisture from food by freezing it and then reducing the surrounding pressure to allow the frozen water to sublimate directly from solid ice to water vapor. The result is a shelf-stable product that retains its original shape, color, flavor, and nutritional content far better than conventionally dehydrated food, and that can be stored for 20 to 25 years in proper packaging. Freeze-dried candy, particularly freeze-dried Skittles, saltwater taffy, and gummy bears, has become a viral product category on social media and at local markets, generating significant demand that has created a real revenue opportunity for operators with freeze dryers. A batch of candy that costs $5 to $8 in raw product produces freeze-dried output that sells for $15 to $30 per bag at farmers markets, flea markets, and online through Etsy and Facebook Marketplace. The cycle time for a freeze dryer batch is between 20 and 36 hours, which means a single machine can run approximately 10 to 14 batches per month with reasonable turnaround for loading, unloading, and packaging. At 10 batches per month with an average retail value of $120 to $200 per batch, a single freeze dryer generates $1,200 to $2,000 per month in gross revenue. The electricity cost per batch, which is the primary operating expense, runs between $8 and $15, depending on the local electricity rate and the batch duration. The freeze dryer business has a regulatory dimension that varies by state and that operators frequently overlook until they receive attention from a local health department. Selling food products, even shelf-stable ones, is subject to cottage food laws in most states, and these laws define what can be sold, where it can be sold, and whether a food handler's permit or a licensed commercial kitchen is required. Many states allow cottage food sales of freeze-dried fruits, vegetables, and herbs without a commercial kitchen, but the rules around freeze-dried candy and freeze-dried dairy products, which have different moisture activity and pH considerations, are less clear in some jurisdictions and may require a separate food safety evaluation. The sixth machine is an ice vending machine, and it is the first machine on this list that operates on a truly passive income model, where the machine generates revenue without the operator being physically present during the sale. Freestanding ice vending machines from manufacturers like Cooler Ice, Ice House America, and iVending cost between $20,000 and $40,000 for a fully installed unit, or they can be leased or financed through the manufacturer. The machine produces ice from a water supply connection, bags it in 10 or 20-pound increments, and dispenses it to customers who pay at the machine via cash, card, or mobile payment. The retail price for a 10-pound bag of ice from a vending machine is typically $1.50 to $2.50, and for a 20-pound bag, $2.50 to $3.50. The cost of water and electricity to produce a 10-pound bag of ice is approximately 12 to 20 cents, making the per-unit margin somewhere between 80 and 90%. The economics of an ice vending machine are dominated by location rather than by operating efficiency, because the machine can produce enough ice to meet almost any level of demand, but the demand itself is entirely determined by foot traffic, visibility, and proximity of competing ice sources. A well-placed ice vending machine at a gas station, marina, campground, or high-traffic convenience store location generates between $1,500 and $4,000 per month in gross revenue. After electricity, water, maintenance, and location rent, the net income per machine ranges between $800 and $2,500 per month. A poorly placed machine in a low-traffic location can generate as little as $200 to $400 per month in gross revenue, which, after electricity and location rent, produces net income that may not cover the financing payment on the machine itself. The location scouting and lease negotiation required to secure a profitable placement is the single most important variable in the ice vending business, and it is a variable that requires salesmanship, negotiation skills, and local market knowledge that the machine itself cannot provide. The seventh machine is an ATM, and it is the lowest cost entry on this list, with a business model that is simultaneously simple to understand and deceptive in its apparent profitability. A new ATM unit from manufacturers like Hyosung, Genmega, or Nautilus costs between $2,000 and $3,000 for a standard through-the-wall or freestanding indoor unit. Used units in working condition sell for $800 to $1,500. The ATM owner loads the machine with cash, typically $2,000 to $5,000 at a time, and earns a surcharge fee on every transaction, which is typically set between $2.50 and $3.50 per withdrawal. The ATM owner keeps the surcharge fee. The cash dispensed is reimbursed to the owner's bank account within 1 to 2 business days through the ATM processing network. The revenue per ATM is a direct function of the number of transactions per month, which is again a direct function of location. A well-placed ATM in a busy bar, nightclub, convenience store, or event venue can process 100 to 300 transactions per month. At a $3 surcharge and 200 transactions per month, the gross revenue is $600. Processing fees charged by the ATM network operator run approximately 20 to 30 cents per transaction, which at 200 transactions is $40 to $60. The net revenue per machine per month at 200 transactions is approximately $540 to $560. At 100 transactions per month, net revenue drops to approximately $270, and at 50 transactions, it drops to approximately $135. The cash loading logistics, which require the operator to physically visit each machine with cash, manage the float, and reconcile the vault balance, represent an ongoing operational commitment that is proportional to the number of machines and the transaction volume. An operator who places 5 ATMs in mediocre locations may generate less total monthly income than an operator who places 2 ATMs in excellent locations, while managing more than twice the operational burden. What connects all 7 of these machines economically is that the machine is the least important variable in the equation. The laser engraver, the DTF printer, the embroidery machine, the CNC router, the freeze dryer, the ice vending machine, and the ATM all work as advertised. They all produce the output they are designed to produce at the cost they are specified to operate. What they do not produce is customers, and the acquisition of customers at a cost that leaves margin after the product or service is delivered is the business problem that every machine owner must solve independently of the machine itself. The machine is the capital. The customer is the revenue. The gap between capital and revenue is filled by the operator's ability to find, serve, and retain the people who will pay for what the machine produces. And that ability is what determines whether the machine pays for itself in 3 months or sits in the garage collecting dust.